Brian, pleasure to meet you. Congratulations on Werewolf by Night. This was phenomenal, and I can't wait to watch it over and over and over again when it finally releases.
That's awesome. Nice to meet you too, and thank you.
Of course. I do want to hear, back at the beginning of this, what kind of consideration went into this being the first ever special presentation versus, a full-on movie or a series on Disney Plus?
It's funny that sometimes things just come together, right? And we'd always wondered, where could we introduce Werewolf by Night? We love the character, what feels right? And of course, movie, TV show, series, different length of series, but Disney Plus lets us be very flexible with what we do. And one of the things that had always come up is we love a good old network special, right? Something like Charlie Brown's, Christmas, or Frosty the Snowman, things like that were like specials and they show once or maybe they show every year. And we said, well, could we do one of those? And it turns out the answer, we tried to say yes, and that's where Werewolf by Night came from. It felt like a fun way to introduce the Werewolf by Night character, the concept of monsters in the MCU, but do it so there's just a tease, so you get excited and you get into it, and then we'll see what it becomes, right? Because if you watch the special, monsters have been around for centuries. So this is just the taste. This is the first time we're peeling back that curtain.
Oh, it was fun. It was such a good story. So well done. And it's a nice introduction to a new pocket of the MCU. Now, I also think that with that comes the most violent sequences I've seen from Marvel Studios yet. That being in black and white makes it a little more palatable, I'd say. Do you think you would have got away with some of the violence that Michael Giacchino directed here, if not for the black and white that kind of makes it a bit less, intense and gory?
Well, now I want to ask that question to Michael. But anyway, what I think is it's about the story, right? We knew we were going to tell a story. These are vicious monster hunters. They're not going to sit around and just have a nice dinner. We're going to get them out there. They're going to be fighting. They're going to be, hunting. And with that, the story requires that we sort of give you that scare and give you that element of what it is. I think the black and white is something that makes it special and makes it, I'll call it just like a little bit of an extra twist on top that makes you go, oh, this is really different and this is cool. There's a stylization to it that not only is an homage to those classic monster movies, but just feels new within the MCU.
Oh, if it was in color, it would have been a whole different story, a whole different tone. I love the decision. What do you think Werewolf by Night would be considered by other characters in the MCU? Would they see him as a threat, an ally?
I mean, he is unpredictable, which is I don't know that he is anyone's ally in the sense that I think Jack just views it as a part of him, right? Many of our heroes view their powers as a calling or as something to step up, or they get this. And Jack is that's who he is. That's who he is as a person. And he probably knows he's a little special, but he probably doesn't think he's that special, right? There's a difference there of how he's just like, this is who I am and this is how you should see me. Who's to say? I'm not sure if anyone would readily approach him and be like, come join my team. He's a little ferocious.
Did the Werewolf by Night team ever consider bringing in like Blade or Moon Knight and what it might be like if that introduction between these characters happened?
I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, the comics, that's a big run, specifically with Moon Knight. For this being a special, it felt like we wanted to focus just on Jack. He's so compelling, he's so interesting, and it felt like he needed a proper introduction in a way that, down the line, characters have a way of running into each other, as I'll say, after over a decade of Marvel films and TV shows, the fun is having them mix and match. But at first you want to fall in love with Jack, and that's what we were aiming to do.
I love it. And Elsa, maybe one day we get that Midnight Suns or something like that. But I want to end this by asking you about another project you've worked on. You got to work on Loki, which came with the introduction of Jonathan Majors to the MCU, and now you're shepherding him into his next one because I know you're working on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Can you speak anything at all about Jonathan Majors and what he's bringing to that versus what we met from him as He Who Remains and how we see as Kang?
I mean, Jonathan is a phenomenal actor and comes in prepared and so thoughtful. And I think part of the fun is that we got someone who is so talented that he can play, as they say in Loki, the low keys and the high keys, and and go across the whole range. With him, I'm so excited for everyone to see the incredible work he's done. I think that he's an incredible presence on the MCU, and when he steps on screen, that Kang is there. Like he gives that embodiment and that gravitas that's so focal to that character.
That footage is incredible from what I've seen at the convention so far.
Yeah.
Right now, Werewolf by Night. I can't wait for everybody to see it. I hope they all like it as much as I did because it was so good, man. Thank you. Congratulations.
Man, thank you.